The official trailer for the 7th season left us all speechless, hyped and anxious for waiting July 16th. However, while this trailer is most likely the best Game of Thrones trailer yet released, there are a few shots that left quite a big amount of fans confused. In this video, I'll provide you an explanation on all those shots that you might be confused about, while for the whole and detailed breakdown, feel free to check out my previous video. Let's start with the first shot of a nervous looking Sansa Stark walking through the Godswood of Winterfell that many fans assumed is confirming the death of Sansa. As Sansa is walking, we can hear Littlefinger's narration. He says, "Don't fight in the north or the south, fight every battle everywhere, always in your mind," which he is most likely telling to Sansa. Now, as I already said, Sansa seems to be very nervous, shocked, surprised and terrified at the same time, while at one moment you can also see a figure behind her, which in my opinion is Littlefinger. While trailer starts with Littlefinger trying to manipulate Sansa, it ends with Sansa's quote, "When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies but the pack survives." Many fans assume that the lone wolf is Sansa herself and she will die in the hands of Littlefinger through his manipulation, but that is definitely not the case. While many fans also assume that she is talking about Benjen Stark being the lone wolf who will die by rescuing severely wounded Jon Snow by setting him off on his horse, it's most likely not the case as well. In my opinion, Sansa is talking about herself with that quote, but that is not foreshadowing her death. It's rather foreshadowing Sansa's refusal over Littlefinger's proposal to betray Jon and will choose to be a part of the pack and stick with her family, which is not surprising at all, at least not to me, since in the season 6 finale Sansa said that only a fool would trust Littlefinger, meaning that she is aware that Baelish does not love or care about her, but cares only about his ultimate goals. While the trailer starts with Littlefinger's speech to Sansa, throughout which he will try to manipulate her, it ends with Sansa choosing the pack. Additionally, this Sansa's quote will, in my opinion, be the final words Peter Baelish will hear. According to my theory, there will be a wedding between Sansa and Littlefinger, but it will be orchestrated by the Stark sisters in order to put an end to a man that is responsible for destruction of their house, as well for all chaos that the Seven Kingdoms has seen in the last few decades. Sansa will manipulate over Littlefinger and marry him, and in the moment of Peter's joy, in a moment when he thinks that he managed to once again manipulate the Starks, Arya will put a dagger down his throat, but before she makes a final cut, Sansa will make it clear that it's all been orchestrated by her and her sister with that quote about the lone wolf and the pack. If you would like to hear more details about the White Wedding theory, which will end with Littlefinger's death, feel free to check out a video regarding that topic named just like already mentioned theory. Let me also highlight that this Sansa's quote is actually from the very first novel of A Song of Ice and Fire, on which Game of Thrones series is based. In the first novel by the name A Game of Thrones, Ned Stark says this quote to Arya when talking about wolves in order to persuade Arya into stop fighting with her sibling. Now let's move on another shot that many fans misinterpreted, which is this shot of Beric Dondarrion wielding a flaming sword beyond the wall in a fight against the undead army. There have been many comments on my previous video in which many of you stated that Beric Dondarrion is Azor Ahai. Beric will obviously wield a flaming sword, but he is not a legendary hero that will defeat the others, and his sword is not Lightbringer that will defeat the darkness of the Great Other. If you're wondering how am I so sure, well, just like he did back in the 3rd season, Beric Dondarrion will ignite his blade with fire by using magic, or more accurately a trick that his good friend and companion Thoros most likely taught him. Thoros became famous for using a sword coated with wildfire and set ablaze before combat as a way of intimidating his enemies. In the 5th episode of the 3rd season, on the road to Yunkai, Jorah had a conversation with Barristan in which he mentioned the Siege of Pike and Thoros' flaming sword. Thoros was the first man, followed closely by Ser Jorah Mormont, through the breach during the Siege of Pike, stabbing and terrifying the Ironborn with his flaming sword. It's also said that despite his many victories, Thoros earned the enmity of blacksmith Tobbo Mott because of his habit of dousing his blades in wildfire which wrecked the steel. Beric Dondarrion is not new Azor Ahai, and his sword is not Lightbringer, and while Thoros used flaming sword to frighten his enemies and opponents, Beric will use it against the Night King's army that is contained of whites that are very susceptible to fire. Let's move on to the next shot. This shot of Grey Worm heading into battle is not confusing for anyone or misinterpreted, but is rather considered as not very interesting shot, but it should not be, as it is possibly confirming a theory that I introduced you with in a video regarding the first trailer. Long story short, Tyrion Lannister will most likely be of the great importance in the Unsullied's invasion of Casterly Rock. This Lannister stronghold is one of the most formidable and well-defended castles in all of Westeros, but it won't matter because Tyrion will show a secret passage to a small group of the Unsullied led by their leader Grey Worm into Casterly Rock through the sewers of the rock. If you're wondering how would Tyrion know about the secret passage through the sewers, it's actually pretty simple. As I said in one of my previous videos, when Tyrion became a man at the age of 16, he was given a charge of all the sewers of Casterly Rock by his father Tywin. Once Grey Worm and his small team sneak into the Lannister stronghold, they will open the gates for the Unsullied, whereupon they will easily defeat the Lannisters' forces and conquer Casterly Rock. Let's move on another shot that made many fans wondering about one person's identity. There's a shot in which we see ravens flying over a horde of whites, and one of them is being forged by Bran Stark, the one with white eyes. However, the leader of the undead army at one point looks up and notices the forged raven, whereupon Bran stopped forging. In the next shot, we got to see him in the wheelchair beside the weirwood tree in the Godswood, accompanied with one person, while the identity remains unknown. That person is Maester Vulcan, that was in service to House Bolton and the Dreadfort and later in Winterfell. It was unknown whether or not he still serves at Winterfell now that it has been taken back by House Stark, until the promotional photos have been released, and besides featuring a huge meeting in Winterfell, it has also confirmed that Maester Vulcan will continue serving at Winterfell, as we can see him attending the meeting. Let me also say that it is not surprising at all, since Maesters have politically neutral status, and once their lord is defeated by his enemies and possession of the castle officially changes, Maester is expected to serve his new lord. The next shot did not confuse anyone, neither has been misinterpreted. As we can see, this shot takes place in a sea battle between Yara and Theon, supported with Dany's ally the Sand Snakes against Euron Greyjoy and his Iron Fleet. However, in this shot, most of you surely did not notice Yara Greyjoy charging into a fight against her uncle's forces, while in the other shot we can see her brother Theon collapsing on a beach of Dragonstone after he either escaped in the heat of battle, as Yara commanded him, or was rescued by his own men after defeat. In the official trailer, we also get to see Euron Greyjoy fighting and killing one soldier. While it's definitely going to be interesting to see him victoriously arriving and parading with his prisoners, Yara and the Sand Snakes, through the streets of King's Landing all the way to the Red Keep, and pledging his army and Iron Fleet to Cersei, which will be accompanied with a marriage deal. There's also a shot that provides us the long-haired male pulling out a sword in a place that seems to be the Dragon Pit, while the box behind him is going in favor to leaked plot. The Dragon Pit is a huge structure in King's Landing that House Targaryen once used as a stable for their dragons. It was destroyed during the Civil War of Succession between two rival branches of House Targaryen, fought 170 years before the events of Game of Thrones TV series. As a few remaining dragons died out soon after the war, it was never rebuilt but left in ruins ever since. Now let me tell you how it seems to be fitting with the leaked plot. They're stated that after the Night King's ambush on Jon Snow and upon failing to capture White in their first attempt, Jon Snow will later, eventually with Daenerys' help, somehow manage to catch a White and will bring it to the Dragon Pit. Daenerys will then send an invitation to all lords and important people of Westeros, as well as to Cersei Lannister herself, to witness the real danger in order to unite their armies to stand a chance against the Night King and his undead army once he attacks the Seven Kingdoms. There's also stated that Cersei will command the Mountain to kill a White to prove that they are not as dangerous as Jon claims, but the Mountain will not manage to do so because the Whites cannot be killed by the sword, as they can withstand stab wound and the removal of limbs. Even amputated limbs will still move around on their own, while decapitation is ineffective, as well as the headless corpse will keep moving. Now, beside all leaks that already confirmed that we are going to see the Dragon Pit, as well as a huge meeting over there, this shot from the official trailer may have confirmed that Jon Snow and Daenerys will organize a meeting and bring a White to prove their existence. There's a high possibility that the man that will prove to all lords and important people that Whites cannot be killed by a sword is going to be the Hound, since the hair and body shape seems to fit perfectly with the Hound rather than the Mountain. If you would like to know more about this huge meeting in the Dragon Pit, feel free to check out my previous videos in which I provided you more informations.